Hello, my name is Rachel Watkin. I work for East Lancs CCG, but I'm actually here today along with the Alzheimer Society to do a Dementia Friends.
I'm Liz Ashton. I'm a Dementia Advisor. I've been with the Society 6 months, but I'm also a Dementia Friends Champion.
Okay, so over the next kind of half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, we'll be looking at people getting more understanding about dementia. And as we've talked about with compassion, understanding is a necessary element. And then as part of that, it's about what are you going to take away with you? What action can you undertake because of what you've now learned and what you understand about dementia? I've run this session lots and lots of times, and I've even had carers who have lived with people with dementia, cared for them for 5, 6, 7 years, and they still walk away at the end of this session saying, I've learned something new and that is something I can do. And actually, that then is about, we may have many clinicians in the room who think I know about dementia, but actually, do you know what effect it has on the patient that's sat in front of you, and their carers, and their family, and their friends? Okay, so you've all got a little voting pad. Normally, if there's significantly less people in the room, I do this as a game of bingo, and there is a prize, but hard luck, there's too many of you. Okay, yeah, I'm going to pass over it.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Scully. I'm going to go sort of take you through some of the voting. If you've all got a pad, if you haven't got a pad, you sat on the wrong chair. They're all over the place with pads. Right, okay, I'll just demonstrate what's going to happen. One simple press of the relevant letter or number should carry your vote. Please wait until on the screen you'll see it go green, and off we go. Okay, thank you. Right, okay, how did you arrive at the event today? You've all been very serious about it, I think. 87% came by car, and 6% came by, what's the number? Oh yeah, bus. And only 4% came by snowmobile. So. Okay, thank you. Right, we'll go on to the first proper slide. It's gone green, so we can vote. Dementia is not a natural part of A, diseases, B, aging, C, losing your memory, or D, sleeping. Okay, A to D. Press which one you want, and you've got 10 seconds. Thank you. Okay, thanks. You've got 81% have said aging and then 15% have said sleeping. I'll hand you back to you.
Okay, so the answer to that one is dementia is not a natural part of aging. This is one of the main key facts that we're trying to get people aware of as part of Dementia Friends. And what do we mean by this? Not everyone who grows old is going to develop dementia, but not everyone who develops dementia is old. People as young as 30 have been known to have a diagnosis of dementia.
Not everyone who sleeps gets dementia.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Next one. Dementia is caused by something of the brain. A, diseases, B, aging, C, losing your memory, and D, sleeping. So A to D. And you've got 10 seconds. Okay, thank you. Okay, 83% have said diseases, 16% have gone for losing your memory. And one thing I forgot to say earlier is that I will now show you the right answer, and then I'll hand over. Got to say that. Okay, diseases is the right answer.
Dementia is caused by disease of the brain in the same way that any other organ can fail, like kidney failure, liver failure. Dementia physically attacks the brain, which could be described as brain failure. Imagine that the brain is a collection of thousands of ferrites, each representing a memory, a skill, or a function of the brain. So what functions does the brain control? You've got your speech, movement, coordination, decision making and sequencing, etc. Now imagine that dementia is causing some of those lights to flicker, dim, or even switch off completely. For each person this will happen in a different order and different lights will be affected.
Okay, thank you. Next one. The most common type of dementia is, and again you've got 4 options, A, diseases, B, Alzheimer's, C, losing your memory, D, sleeping. 10 seconds. Thank you. And again, 96% have gone for Alzheimer's, and surprisingly enough, that's the right answer. Thank you.
So quite often we get asked, what's the difference between Alzheimer's and dementia? It's just the fact that Alzheimer's disease is a type of dementia. There's over 100 different types of dementia that are currently being diagnosed, and that's getting bigger all the time. We're still in a position where we don't know how many dementias there are out there. Other ones that you might know about or might have heard of include ones like vascular dementia, Parkinson's, dementia with Lewy bodies, or frontal temporal dementia. But there's, you know, we're in this position where we are still learning so much about dementia.
Okay, next one. Dementia is not just about, and again, 4 options: A, progressive; B, Alzheimer's; losing your memory; C, or D, sleeping. So dementia is not just about those 4, A to D. And again, you have 10 seconds. If it doesn't think it's worked first time, by all means press again. It won't register the second time. Okay, thank you. And this time 85% have gone for C, losing your memory, and 15% for Alzheimer's. And the right answer is losing your memory.
Dementia is not just about losing your memory. If we think back to the fairy lights from earlier, what else could be affected by dementia? Any brain function at all.
Thank you. Next one. Dementia is, which means the symptoms will gradually get worse. So A, progressive; B, Alzheimer's; C, losing your memory; or D, selective. So dementia is A, B, C, or D. And you have 10 seconds again. Okay, thank you. And 97% have gone for A, progressive. That's the right answer.
Yeah, so dementia is progressive, which means the symptoms will gradually get worse. All kinds of dementia are progressive, but they progress in different ways. So an example there would be Alzheimer's has a gradual progression, so it's basically what we'd see as a straight line. So if you're a carer living with somebody who's got Alzheimer's disease, you're not necessarily going to notice that progression. Whereas a carer or a friend who only sees them every 2 or 3 months is going to recognise that, oh, hang on a minute, something's changed since last time I saw them, and the disease has got worse. Whereas vascular dementia is stepwise, so it's much more obvious when that progression has happened, and living with that person, you're more likely to recognise that that dementia has got significantly worse.
Okay, next one. 1 in A5, B3, C14, D20 people over 65 have dementia at any one time. Okay, so 1 in A, B, C, or D. People over 65 have dementia at any one time. 10 seconds. Okay, thank you. A bit more of diversity here. 42% have gone for A, which is 5. 25% have gone for C14. And the right answer is C14.
People are starting to get competitive now, I can see. Okay, so with this one, 1 in 14 people over 65 have dementia at any one time. So in other words, if you've got 14 people in a room who are all aged 65 or above, one of them will probably have a diagnosis of dementia. From that same research, there was also the fact that 1 in 3 people over 65 will have developed dementia before they die. So if you get to the age of 65, you've got a 1 in 3 chance of developing dementia before you die. Don't panic, because actually that could be in the last 12 months of your life, and you might already be 103, 104 before the disease develops. So it doesn't mean that 1 in 3 age 65 are going to have dementia. But then conversely, let's use the positive stat there. 2 out of 3 people, once they've reached age 65, are not going to develop dementia. So although we talk about this huge crisis, it's still less than half of the population.
Okay, next one. Dementia affects each person in, again, A, progressive, B, selective, C, losing your memory, or D, different ways. Dementia affects each person in A, B, C, or D. And you have 10 seconds again. Okay, thank you. And 97% have gone for D, different. And that's the right answer.
Dementia does affect people in different ways. The factors that determine the way in which dementia affects somebody varies so much. The type of dementia, the order in which their ferrolites are affected, their environment, their past life, their diet. It's a different journey for everybody.
The next one. Dementia can also affect people's A, perception, B, progressive, B, Alzheimer's, C even, Alzheimer's, D, losing your memory, or E, different. Dementia can also affect people. 10 seconds. Okay, thank you. And 94% have gone for perception, and 5% going for different. And the answer is perception.
Okay, so dementia can also affect people's perception. If actually I'd have gone around the room at the beginning and said, what does dementia mean to you? I bet 90% of the people in the room would have said old age or losing your memory. Okay, so we're talking about it can affect perception. Well, what does that mean to somebody? It means shiny floors might look wet. Patterns of fruit on a tablecloth might look like real fruit. So you find that people with dementia will reach out for things that the rest of us recognise as being just a 2D image, just a picture on the wall. A swirly carpet might look like snakes. So imagine then you were on a high street and you wanted to go in a shop, and most of our shops have got black mats just inside or just outside the door. What's that mat going to look like? A hole. So if you're a person with dementia, you think there's a huge black hole in front of you. What now? Actually, I'm not going to step on that hole. I'm going to either walk around it, but it covers the whole door. Well, I'm not going in that shop then. And if you're a carer and you really need to get in that shop, how do you feel? Frustrated, embarrassed. What if a group of people behind are kind of going, come on, move on, or standing and staring and laughing? Actually, you're just going to get more embarrassed. You're just going to get more frustrated. So what can we do as individuals? Think about that. Don't stand and stare. Don't laugh. Encourage other people to move on if they need to. Or actually, offer to help. Offer to stay outside with that person and look after them while the carer's in the shop. They're just little things. But then if you do offer help, do also be prepared to be told to get lost. But that's the way we've got to live. So Dementia Friends is about supporting everyone who's living with dementia. So that doesn't mean just the person who's living with dementia, but actually their carers and their friends and family.
Okay, next one. There is A, perception, B, more, C, Alzheimer's, D, losing their memory to the person than the dementia. Okay. Against 4 responses, 10 seconds. Thank you. And 97% have gone for more. And that's the right answer.
There is more to the person than the dementia. In the same way we'd look at someone with cancer or diabetes and see the person first, there is always more to a person than the dementia. What else might a person with dementia have? They might have red hair, like me. They might have a broken leg, a great singing voice, a past as an astronaut, a personality and a past. The history is always important for people who live with dementia. For example, a care home in the northeast had an elderly resident with dementia who was constantly tapping her fingers on every service. It was extremely annoying for the staff and other residents, especially as they could not work out why she actually did it. One day, a niece came to visit from Australia, and naturally the first question to be asked her is, why does she do that? Unfortunately, she didn't know either. So the care home spent the rest of the afternoon with the niece, finding out more about the resident. And they learned more about Mavis at her funeral that they did over the years they actually cared for her. That's the sort of things that get told to you. It's always people's past, it's not why they're living. So one of the things they discovered was actually that during the war she'd worked at Bletchley Park and helped crack the actual Enigma code. How amazing is that? So she only lived there for 3 months, but at that time she became an actual heroine. The other residents were much more patient, the local papers came to interview her, and the scouts came to tap away a Morse code to her. That is exactly what she was doing. She was just trying to communicate. It really goes to show that there really is much more to the person than the dementia.
Okay, Dementia Friends is about turning understanding into A, more, B, words, C, action, or D, Alzheimer's. And again, 10 seconds. Okay, thank you. And 88% have gone for action. And 80% are correct.
Okay, so at the end of today's session, I'll be asking you to think about what you as individuals and as work communities, as East Lancs CCG and our stakeholders and members, what can we do differently in our day-to-day lives that will help people with dementia? To start you thinking, some examples would be, we've had some journalists who've committed never to write dementia sufferers. It's people living with dementia. Just by changing that slight terminology can make a massive difference to how we feel and then how the rest of the community feels. If the person ahead of you in the queue at the supermarket is struggling, take a deep breath, count to 10. Don't stand there tutting and patting your legs like we all do, because we all stand there going, oh, come on, get on with it. Look, I just nicked him for 2 minutes and I'm standing here for that. Well, actually, no. There's a reason that they're struggling. Might not be dementia, it might be something else. But then again, dementia might be the reason. And those of you that are social media savvy, post, say you've been a dementia friend, get those tweets out there to get other people encouraged and encourage others to attend a session. Okay, so this might seem like a very bizarre task that I'm going to ask you to do now, but if you could work in pairs or groups and think about what you do to make a cup of tea. What do you do to make yourself a nice brew? Write down those steps or count them up if you haven't got paper and pen, and allocate a spokesperson who's going to tell me some of those steps back and tell me how many steps you've got. You've got, well, I did say 5 minutes, but we're kind of overrun. You've got about 2 or 3 minutes to do that. I'll shout at you when you're moving on.
When you find the kettle, don't you? Fill the kettle. Fill the
Right, the last 30 seconds. Okay, we'll put them back together. So, can I just kind of run the spokespersons from each group? Can we just have a rough kind of number of how many steps that you've allocated? And we'll start at the back. 20. 19. 11. 8. 12. 31. Any advance? 15. 15. Any advance on 31? 29. Nearly there.
As soon as you feel the tilt.
Okay, so even in the room there, we've got quite a significant variation. How many of you have written down, put the kettle on? Okay, let's think about that. Put the kettle on. What's the kettle look like? Actually, has it got water in it? How much water has it got in it? Have I taken it to the sink and filled it up? Well, hang on a minute, to fill it up I've got to open the lid, I've got to put the kettle under the tap, I've got to turn the tap on, I've got to turn the tap off, I've got to move the kettle away. Okay, put the lid back on, take it back to where it was, put it back on its stand and turn the kettle on. Actually, that one thing was just taking me 10, 15 different steps.
Just subcontract it out.
Well, you just didn't contract out, obviously. I guess somebody else to do it for you. But hang on a minute.
Initially, we were talking about employing a focus group to decide on the definition of a nice cup of tea.
Well, because a nice cup of tea would be different for you than it would for me. I absolutely agree on that one. Yeah. So, but then what we've got to think about, how many of us who've got an experience of living with somebody with dementia, visiting somebody with dementia, do we go in and go, I'll just make you a brew? What happens at 8 o'clock at night when they're on their own? Because actually, if everybody that's gone in has made them a cup of tea, you're starting to lose that core skill. Because we all do it on autopilot. We all go and just automatically, because actually what we just had to think about then, we never think about. You don't actually think about how you make yourself a cup of tea. Another example there would be, what if the person who lives with dementia always does their washing up and then leaves their cup out? And they walk past the sink, that's a trigger. Actually, I need to make myself a drink. Because they don't recognise the feeling of thirst because their perception's gone. But they recognise that that's a cup of tea. How many of us as carers or as relatives, friends, would go in and go, oh, I'll just be helpful, I'll just put the washing up away? That in itself is starting to de-skill. So what we need to think about doing is, don't do it for them, do it with them or help them to do it. So actually, don't start de-skilling, because when we think we're being helpful, quite often what we're doing is being particularly unhelpful. But think about what you're doing to be helpful first. Again, going back to the cup of tea, what has that included that your brain's controlling? It's included movement, sequencing, vision, coordination, logic, and obviously your memory. But all of those things could have been affected by the person's dementia, not just their memory. So it's about, actually, we need all of those things within our life to live well, to live active. But what I'm not saying is that a diagnosis of dementia means that you can't live well. You can, but you need the support and understanding of all of the community around you. So anybody that you come into contact with, whether that's a person working on the till in the shop, whether it's somebody that you pass in the road, or whether actually it's your main carer or your family that you see on a constant basis, we all need to have that understanding and we all need to offer that support.
I'm going to describe about a bookcase analogy. It's not a scientific explanation. It's not a scientific explanation, but has been developed in order to help the average person understand how dementia can affect a person. So, imagine that I'm an 80-year-old woman, and there is a bookcase beside me, as tall as me, so it's on the level. And each book represents a memory or a skill in each shelf, okay? So the top shelf is very, very recent memories and skills. So that's that's very recent. So about where my shoulders is, that's probably when I was about 60. By my knees is when I was in my 20s, and at childhood would be the shelf for my feet, okay? When somebody lives with dementia, it actually rocks the bookcase side to side. So obviously when the books are shaking, the top ones fall off first. So that's your most recent memories. And then as dementia progresses, the actual upper shelves will become rather empty. So what would I think of as my most recent memory? It'll come further down the bookcase. So even though I'm an 80-year-old lady, I could be sort of living as if I was 60s, 50s. So, for example, if a few of my top shelves are empty, I might find myself living in the 1950s. So, what's different? I walk into my kitchen. I don't understand what that is. Oh, it's an electric kettle. What do I do with that? It's not, I can't put it on the stove. What accidents might this lead to? And what might I be tempted to do? It might actually stop me making a cup of tea and think, do you know what? I'm not really understanding where I am or what I'm doing. And so, does it really matter if I don't know the date or the PM's name? Embrace my reality, where I'm at. So with different parts of the brain, they are also affected differently. You've got your hippocampus, which manages your factual and biographical data. So you've got your faces, your names, your dates and your numbers. Picture a bookcase made from plywood, poorly constructed. The dementia will move it a lot and the books will fly off. With your amygdala, that manages your emotions and feelings and the things that make me who I am. So this will be a bookcase made from solid oak, and the contents will be safe from the dementia for a lot longer. So for every book on my hippocampus, there will be a correspondent book on my amygdala. So for example, a teacher I had in school and how they inspired me to feel, okay? So for example, you've been to visit me and we had a huge row, which is on this side. You go away thinking, well, it doesn't matter because she'll forget, those books will fall off, she'll forget about it. I might forget about the argument and even your visit, but what will stay with me? How I actually felt, how it made me feel the last time I saw you. And so for the next person coming in, it'll be a case of, well, I feel really awful. Well, why do you feel awful? I can't remember. But you do because the feelings stay with you. So, you've been to visit me, we've had a lovely time, but I called you by the wrong name. You think you shouldn't visit anymore because I won't remember you or I don't recognise you. That's not the case. I may not know your name, but what I do remember from your visit are your feelings of love, comfort, safety and warmth.
Okay, just before I quickly recap on the 5 points, in your packs you have a nice little card that as you open it up, I'm going to tell you nice, then you can all cheat in the next block of questions, has got the 5 key points that you're supposed to take away from this session as well as anything else, which will be the 5 key points that we're just about to recap on the screen using your voting pads again. You've also got a postcard typed question that we would absolutely love it if you could fill it in and commit to an action. There will be a box at the back that you can put these into, so you don't need to send them off in the post and then we'll hopefully get charged for everyone. I'll put them all together and send them all off as one. It can be done anonymously. If you don't want to add your details on, then that's fine, but please commit to making an action. That action may be one of the ones that's suggested on the card, but it might be something else that you've thought of personally. And then in your little goodie bag, as you leave at the end, will be your little Dementia Friends badge. Please wear it with pride, absolutely. If nothing else, it can be a conversation starter. And that conversation might be the one conversation that that person who is a carer or a person living with dementia needs. For those of you that have already got a badge, and I'm going to be really cheeky now, can you kind of give me your new one back if you don't need it, and then I've still got a selection to hand on to them when I do my next group. And if any of you are absolutely committed and are enthused by the last half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, we do have an opportunity to have a Dementia Friends Champions training session in East Lancashire. So if you want to do what we've just done, and it doesn't have to be to huge groups like this, please come and find me and let me know, and I'll take your details so that we can let you know exactly when that training session is going to happen. And then we'll recap on the 5 key points.
Okay, first question. Dementia is not a natural part of A, diseases, B, ageing, C, losing your memory, D, sleeping. Recap question. And you'll have 10 seconds again. Okay, thank you. Oh, 95, okay. And the right answer is B, ageing. Okay, thank you. Recap question number 2. Dementia is caused by something in the brain. A, diseases, B, ageing, C, losing your memory, D, sleeping. 10 seconds. Okay, thank you. 98%, we're getting there. A, diseases. Oh, yeah, that's the right answer. Good. Okay, next one. Dementia is not just about A, progressive, B, Alzheimer's, C, losing your memory, D, 14. 10 seconds. Okay, one for press again if you don't think it's worked. Okay, 92% have gone for losing your memory. And that's correct. Okay, thank you. Okay, this one you didn't have before actually. It is possible to survive with dementia, B, live well, C, develop, or D, progress. A, B, C, or D. Survive, live well, develop, or progress. 10 seconds. Okay, thank you. 90% have gone for live well. You heard a little yes behind, you might find that's the right answer. Live well. Thank you. Okay, there is A, perception, B, more, C, Alzheimer's, D, losing their memory to the person than dementia. Again, 10 seconds. 96% have gone for more, which is the right answer. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much for that and for being interactive. Yay! It's now a very quick comfort break. Back in 3. Yeah. So 10-minute or 5 to 10 minute comfort break. If you can be back in for 3. But you can